everybody knows when they go into a space, say it's a great restaurant or it's a really beautiful historical building or it's a gorgeous church or it's somewhere that has a spirit or
Yeah.
a soul within it. People know they feel something in that space, but they don't know why.
Right.
And those are the reasons why.
Welcome back to Powered by People. I'm Wendy Pauls, a local realtor helping people make their next right move. This podcast is all about getting to know the people behind the businesses and organizations that keep our community thriving. My goal is to introduce you to incredible professionals who just might be the perfect connection for your next move, whether in real estate, business, or in life. Today's guest is Carolann Mackie, founder of the Frugal Decorator, and a true master of blending beauty, function, and soul into the spaces we live and work in. With over 18 years running her own design firm and a lifetime immersed in creativity, Carolann brings both artistry and science to every project. In this conversation, we explore her journey from childhood Lego builds to large-scale home renovations, and why good design is never just about looks. Whether you're a design enthusiast, a homeowner planning a renovation, or someone who just loves hearing from passionate people who love what they do, you're going to love this one. Carolann, I have been recently checking out some of your social media, and just, I don't know, some of the images and pictures and things you capture are just so beautiful. You've been running an interior decorating company for a number of years, over 20 years?
I've been in the industry forever, it seems.
Uh-huh.
From infancy, I always say.
Okay, yeah.
And it's been 18 years with this company. So I
Okay.
started this company in 2007.
And that's the Frugal Decorator?
As the Frugal Decorator.
Okay.
And it was actually a friend of mine that coined the name for me a couple years prior when I was helping her out with some of her decorating needs. But I'd been in the industry for, I went to school out of high school for merchandising,
Okay.
retail merchandising, and that's kind of how I evolved into where I am now. But it started back then, and slowly made twists and turns and directions as you do when you're learning a new craft and getting on with your career. And yeah, so it's been a long time coming to be here, and it's been great. I mean, it's such an exciting career, such a dynamic career. I mean, every day is different, which is really, my husband and I were talking about that just in terms of, how enjoyable your career can be, and how it is that you get to that point. And the decisions you make along the way to further your knowledge and get you to kind of where you're meant to be, and how amazing it is to be in a career that that challenges you and that you love, and that it's something that every day you don't dread coming to. It's and it's yeah, it's wonderful. 18 years of bliss. I mean, it's not all been great, but
sure,
you know what I mean.
I'm sure. Yes. But when you love what you do and you have a passion for it, and that's obvious. When did you first notice that spark towards, kind of beauty, design, creativity? Do you remember how old you were? Were you an infant? A baby that came out?
I was pretty young.
Yeah.
I think the first real understanding of my desire to do something like this was probably when I was about 7. And
That's pretty early.
it was young. I had the benefit of having a dad who could literally build anything. He was so handy in so many ways. His name was Andy, so we used to call him Handy Andy.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so essentially, it started when I got my first set of Lego.
Oh, okay.
So I received Lego, and I remember being like spending hours and hours and hours building homes and
Mm-hmm.
commercial spaces, and like I didn't
Okay, so
even
right
really know.
away, it was like houses and buildings
Yeah,
was what you were drawn to.
architectural, yes,
Okay, yeah,
and I
okay.
would do things like I think we had mentioned this before when we'd had a chat, that the Lego has like this little lever kind of pivot piece,
Mm-hmm.
and I used that to create things like, floor lamps, and
Mm,
in
mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
hospital that I had built, I used it to create the operating room lights. Like it was
Wow.
just,
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
really, my imagination just took over.
Sure,
And
sure.
that's really what this job is. It's
Mm,
using your imagination and bringing people to a place that they never thought they could go with their homes and their offices. And
mm-hmm.
I mean, there's limitations around that, just because I mean we live in Kitchener, so we're not in a fashion forward or
Right.
architecturally
Yeah.
forward
Or like
environment.
Dubai or
Yes,
something.
we're not,
Yes.
I mean, and people are risk adverse, I would say, when it
Mm,
comes to, they kind of want to stay within a certain bracket and status quo, but I often try to take them to an interesting place.
mm-hmm.
um just, it's my job to show them the possibilities,
Mm.
whether
I
they
love
go
that.
there or not, um or they take a segment of that and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we were going to go this far with it, or but then there's the client, that is like, yes, I really want to do something unique and different.
Have you
And you
ever been
have,
given that whole thing like do what you want? Has anybody ever gone
um
close to that far?
it's more about, let's see where we can go with it,
Okay.
because what we really do is we're kind of known for creating concepts, and within those concepts we offer choice and different layouts, and generally we do two, but often we do three, and then because we can't help ourselves we'll kind of sometimes go into more options, just
Mm-hmm.
because our minds and the creativity doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to build some boundaries
Mm-hmm.
around it sometimes.
Sure.
So definitely within the concepts we explore the what ifs. What
Mm.
if we took
Mm-hmm.
out this wall? What if we added a wall? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we get better space planning when we're adding and not taking away.
Okay. Yeah.
Often people think when reno is
Mm-hmm.
on the docket that it's removing walls
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
within like an already established space.
Yeah.
If we're adding on an addition or something, of course we're adding walls, but I'm talking within the same
Right.
footprint.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's adding in a wall or a boundary within a space that gives you more luxury and possibility
Mm.
within the space. Um, and it's an
Yeah.
interesting phenomenon. You wouldn't think that, but
No.
yeah,
Right. It's a bit counterintuitive.
it
I'm
is.
curious how quickly you can see. So, can you start to envision if I were to take you into, a home? Uh, can you just start seeing things right away? Does it take you a while? What's kind of your mental process, your creative
Yeah.
process?
Certainly, I can go into a space and filter what is already there
Mm-hmm.
and see the space differently.
I
See the
admire that. I would love to have that.
It's
Yeah.
certainly a gift, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
You know, being able to, everybody has their gift.
Yeah.
Everybody does. You just have to find it. You
Mm-hmm.
just have to evolve it. You have to listen for it.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so we all have it. It's just some people find it earlier than others. Some
Yeah.
people, make a switch to they had something over here and now they're here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm lucky enough to be able to have that gift, and sometimes it's annoying.
Okay, say more about that. Yeah.
Sometimes, especially sometimes people, my family perhaps might,
Sure.
if I go into, say, a restaurant or a hotel or something, I'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, I would really do that.
Yeah.
they're
Mm-hmm.
like
Where
they're
you
like
can't just enjoy,
yeah,
you automatically start
yes,
changing things in your
but
mind.
I
Yeah.
am enjoying. It's just maybe
Yeah.
not, they're not enjoying.
Yeah. There she goes
There she
again.
goes. um
Mm-hmm.
but oddly enough, when I go into people's homes for a social gathering or a personal thing, I can turn that off.
Okay. Yeah. Or else your friends would feel so pressured.
Yes, I don't have any judgment on,
Mm.
unless they ask me
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. I don't offer any of that. And it's not a conscious thing. It just doesn't come into my head.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
so there is a work mode of me, and then there's, I mean, often it's blurred lines too, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I don't know why that happens. I maybe just out of respect, I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
for people, and and people's spaces are their spaces, and
Right.
what I may, feel is beautiful, or you know nicely laid out. That's not for me to
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
a judgment on that for other
Mm-hmm.
people, unless they're
Yeah.
asking for it.
Yeah.
So yes, when I go into homes or work environments, commercial spaces, as a decorator designer, I am able to see what the possibilities are, and
Thing.
it's a cool tool to have.
Mm. It certainly is. Yeah. Because the difference for me is I can't create from nothing. I don't have that gift. Have
Well,
to
you're
have a
creating this.
well, that's true. Yes. I have to have something to like go from. Like I have to have a
Mhm,
starting point.
mhm.
So I can see something. Now I can, modify it and make it different, but it's like I have to have a source of inspiration
Sure.
first.
Yes.
One thing I am grateful for, similar to you with being able to sort of turn things off, is I can appreciate style that isn't my style. So
Yes.
I can go in and, a very modern home or something, which isn't my style. And I can totally see that it's beautiful and I can appreciate it. I know I wouldn't choose it, but I can still appreciate the beauty in the design.
Yes.
And
It's
I'm
very
grateful because I
important.
feel like some people, if it's not their preference, they just
Right.
don't like it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate being able to admire
Great to have that vision,
different
to be
styles.
able to understand that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I operate and approach projects in a very similar way,
Hmm.
where I I may not like, I kind of like a little bit of a masculine taste in
Hmm.
in design.
What do you mean
Um,
by that?
yeah, because
What would
I
that
mean,
look
with
like?
all the pronouns and all the, you have to be concerned about a little bit about how you approach this, but more, I like a moodier space.
Okay.
Maybe
That's
that's a
yeah.
better
Okay.
language
Yeah.
to use. A little moodier, a little deeper in color at
Mm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, in saying that, my current space, which people often will say to me, "Do you change? You must change your space all the time."
Uh-huh.
I don't. The last time we redid our living room and dining room 2 years ago now, and prior to that, it was like 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but this time I went for my happy place, which is a kind of a watery coastal feel, and it's softer than, maybe it's because I'm aging and I'm getting softer. I don't know. I really wanted to feel that in my environment,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that's where I feel, the freest is at the beach, and at, in a watery kind of
Mm-hmm.
environment. So,
Mm-hmm.
so my space is right now quite light and airy and not as moody. Um, I guess the mood is relaxation in my home right
Oh,
now.
yeah, I like that. I like that
Yeah.
mood. And I like the idea about using your space to create a mood. I'm
Yeah.
not sure we always think of it that way,
Yeah.
but it
Lighting can do
definitely
that.
does.
Lighting
Yes.
is huge to be able to do that
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the style. But I'd like to revisit the style,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the varying styles that you mentioned. Um, Often when people are working with designer, decorator, architect, they may feel that they're a little worried about having to be directed to what that particular professional is
Right.
interested in
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
likes.
Yep.
Um, I try not to do that in almost all of our projects, unless we've got something that's very intentional, like a themed type environment where it may be a restaurant that's particular with
Mm-hmm.
the look or theme that they're creating, then you're,
Mm-hmm.
you're channeled that way. But
Yep.
in a residential space, it's really important for me to have the client's own personal mark and own personal style be
Mm-hmm.
within that environment.
Mm-hmm.
But what I bring to the table is making sure that that style has all of the principles and elements of the design that's going to make it elevated, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to make it, you know, regardless of the style, that it's at the best that it can be within that style, with all of the lighting, the repetition of pattern, the palette, all of the things that make up the science of what we do,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a science. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes people forget that it we're using both sides of our brain when we do this type of work.
Mm-hmm.
It is very much math.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, things have to
Mm-hmm.
be to scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're not to
Mm-hmm.
scale, it doesn't work.
Yep.
Things have to function. That's all about math and ergonomic space and all of that as well. Even the aesthetic portion of it is math as well. Pattern repeat, when to
Mm.
use pattern, when not to, how to pair pattern. It's all about math.
Mm.
Color is even science.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When they make paint, it's all about the amounts of, the
Yes.
derivative colors within it that create the hue and all of the shades within that
Mm-hmm.
color.
Mm-hmm.
So it is all science, but it gets
Yeah.
lost sometimes. That part of what we do sometimes doesn't come into play in people's minds,
Right.
because they come from a place that it's feels more art. It feels more uh, aesthetics. It feels more, but you can't have the aesthetics without the science.
Yeah. And I
It's
have
very
never really
interesting.
thought about it that way. It's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that. I know when it comes to sort of math and colors, a few years ago when I was going to repaint, I was looking at, I'm trying to remember which company's website. They give you some of the descriptions about, and I can't even remember the terms, you may know them, but how much the color will like reflect light, like the different degree to which it will do that. And I found that really interesting because I thought, okay, so if I really want to brighten the space, it's not even just about the color that my eye sees, right? But it's about certain colors, like in a family, are going to kind of reflect more light. So I was reading some of those when I was trying to choose and go, yeah, no, in this room, I want a lot of light. So I want to pick one of the, I think it was just in the off whites even,
Right.
and
Yeah.
certain ones just have more of,
Yeah.
more reflection.
Yeah.
So it
I've
was
got my fan
interesting.
deck right beside me here. And,
Uh-huh.
it's so interesting because there's a section called whites.
Yes.
And like
And it's
you
so
look,
many.
you look at the whites.
Right. Like you just think, oh, paint it white. And then it's like, which of the 5,000 whites?
Yes. So many different ones. And some of them have blue undertones, some of them have
Ah,
pink undertones, some of them
yes.
have yellow undertones, some gray. And often, too, I would challenge your listeners to grab a fan deck
Mm-hmm.
and take a look at how they're laid out. So in the first part of the fan deck, you have what is labeled as color. And
Mm-hmm.
color is the brighter,
Mm-hmm.
kind of saturated kind of
Mm-hmm.
color. Um, and often there's more white in that paint. There's more
Mm-hmm.
brightness there. Um, so when I sometimes see people at the paint store or the big box stores
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
they're excited to paint their bedroom yellow and they go to these colors, I
Mm-hmm.
want to go over to them and say, hold on a minute. I know you
Yeah.
want yellow, but you want to take it out of the next page of
Which
yellows, which is
is
the neutrals, because
okay.
there's
Mm-hmm.
still yellow in here, but it is neutralized by what they do is essentially they add a dimming color. So it would be a gray or the black or an umber of some sort that would dull it down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And dull sometimes takes a bad rap because people are like, oh, I don't want my walls to feel dull. But what it does is it gives you a wall or a room that you don't feel so elevated and vibrant
Right.
in,
Right. Right.
because
Yes.
it can literally hyper you. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to create your walls a little bit calmer and
Mm-hmm.
then add the vibrant on with the second layer, which is your art, like what you have behind you. Your wall is more neutral, it's picking up on the color that you've got there, but it's allowing your art to speak instead of the wall to speak.
Yes. Yes. And
Unless
also easier to
sometimes
switch it up
it
too.
is easier to
Yeah, with the
switch it up.
accents. Mm-hmm.
Although sometimes, when my boys were younger, they really love Manchester United soccer team, and their colors are red. You know, and red on a wall can be really intense, but
Mm-hmm.
it works if it's done properly, and
Yeah.
it's got even the right red on the wall. So
Yes.
even the red that's got a little bit more muted, duller vibrancy,
Right.
and then they can add on the actual Manchester United kind of
Yeah.
paraphernalia, and then that's what speaks again. So
Yeah.
it's a fine line between going to something that's going to make you feel um, almost like anxious in a
Mm-hmm.
space.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why if you go to the more neutral paint colors on the wall, it will allow the rest of what you want to show off in your
Mm-hmm.
space to do that first
Mm-hmm.
instead of the opposite.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of that space in your room. There's so much wall for the most part.
Yeah.
There's some areas that maybe only have two walls and it's very open concept, but essentially rooms have four walls, right? we can
Mm-hmm.
we can
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
we can be clear to say that. And so if you've got a lot of deep intense color or very very vibrant bright color,
Mm-hmm.
it can be
Mm-hmm.
hard to live in that,
Yeah. I
you know
remember the first time I heard anything about the psychology of color. Um, and it was hearing about the color Baker Miller pink. This was the first color that I had heard used strategically
Sure.
for to influence mood. And it was
Yes.
used in a prison, I believe, or something like that, where to keep the prisoners calm. They
Yes.
chose a very specific shade of pink that had an impact
Sure.
on their psychology. And I
Yes.
thought, and I heard that decades ago, and I was
Yes.
fascinated. I thought, well, that's
It is
interesting.
fascinating when
And I
your
have
room.
heard about some reds being very triggering and
Yes.
causing a very strong
Yes,
reaction.
which is why
Yeah.
they use red to signify emergencies, and
Yes.
so
Or
they all have,
sales.
yeah, so they
Yeah.
all sales. Yes,
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
emergency sometimes.
Yeah. That's right.
So they all have a place and a symbolic presence in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is very, very interesting. There you go
Mm-hmm.
again, like with the science, the science of the neurology,
Yeah.
how it affects our brain. And everybody knows when they go into a space, say it's a great restaurant, or it's a really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful historical building, or it's a
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous church, or it's, somewhere that has a spirit or
Yeah.
a soul within it. People
Mm-hmm.
know they feel something in
Mm-hmm.
that space, but they don't know why.
Right.
And those are the reasons why. It's all
Mm-hmm.
of the science that's gone into the development of the interior, and to create an environment that is producing an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that is essentially how I personally approach projects, as well, when it comes to, say, creating a recreation room for family life. What does that look like? What's important to those clients that room is going to deliver for
Mm-hmm.
them?
Mm-hmm.
So all the deliverables of, we want it to be fun, we want it to be comfy, we want it to be cozy, we want it to be
Mm-hmm.
multifunctional. So if all of those things are on the wish list, when I am creating options for them, those are
Mm-hmm.
the things I think about as far as the aesthetics to get them there, and the function to get them there, and the type of furniture I would recommend then.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
layout obviously is very important. So there's a lot that goes into it.
There is. There really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's honestly, my brain has been just firing listening. There's so many directions I want to go, questions, but one of them is I'm curious to know if there's, because you've been in it long enough to experience this, sort of rules that have changed. So, for example, I know even in fashion, years ago, you would never put off white and white. Like a cream and a white would be, you just wouldn't do it. Like it was like a rule. Do you know what I mean? And now I'm seeing, oh, in fashion and in decor, sometimes I'll see them putting things together that in my mind used to be a rule to not do. So can you think of some things that maybe during your time have changed as far as those, and I'm using air quotes, rules?
Yeah. I like to be a rule breaker.
I like it. I like
uh,
it. Yeah.
um, I would say right now in the design world, a lot of people are saying there's no rules, and which is, can be scary and also freeing at the same time. But I think what's important is for people to feel what they need to feel within their space, however that looks for them. I think it's important for people to understand that it's okay to have pieces that have been passed down to you in your space, that you can mix styles, you
Mm-hmm.
can mix uh, metals, you can mix color, as long as you're following the principles and elements of design, you can't really go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So give us an idea. What are some of those
yeah.
principles that you
So
that you need to
you
follow?
mentioned the white on whites. So multiple hues and tones of whites together can be beautiful. Um, you have to be careful in doing that, because sometimes when you're not applying the principles and elements of design, it can perhaps be imbalanced.
Hmm.
Um, so it's all about being able to have an ebb and flow. I sometimes call it the yin for the yang, being able to have uh, strategic spacing for a certain white with another white. Um, so yeah, it's all very doable and all very okay now to
Hmm.
do, what used to be the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just still having an understanding of how to make them work together.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you see they talk about the French women with their, uh, easy style. It looks like they've just, like, came out of their home just like that in the world, and they
Mm-hmm.
were
Mm-hmm.
born with fashion. And
Yeah.
um and if you look at what really speaks to that kind of style and that kind of imagery, it is the ease of it. It is the, but there's strategy in everything that they're doing, which
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yeah, you want to make
opposite.
it look like you're not thinking a
Yes.
lot about it, but you
Yes.
actually are.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some challenges for me, and I think for a lot of people on something like shelving, like how to place items well on a shelf. Do you actually have any kind of general tips you can share with our viewers or listeners about something like that? Like just some things to consider, some starting points for some basic things like
Yeah.
that.
So just kind of getting back to science and psychology again of design, we are drawn more to odd than even,
Mm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
which even in the design of us as humans, with our two eyes, the one nose, like
Mm.
the
Mm-hmm.
triangular features,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
same thing happens on a plate on a good meal. um you'll often see things happen in threes or
Mm-hmm.
happen in ones. So often the great restaurants will stack things now,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it comes into a visual of one, even though there's maybe four or five things in that meal. We as humans like the aesthetic of uneven number. However, we also appreciate symmetry,
Yes. Right. They seem
right?
to conflict. Yes.
Yes. But if we're speaking in terms of pattern and movement, the odd works better often for us. So perhaps you've got three shelves, and the upper shelf, you're going to align your materials or whatever you're working with to stay to the left. And then on the second shelf, you're pulling things to the right in
Hmm.
equal weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the
Mm-hmm.
bottom shelf, you're going back to the left again. So there
Mm-hmm.
you've got your three, but it's a triangle, which comes back to
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
So
Okay. Oh.
there's again
Mm-hmm.
the whole math of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think balance is really important in
Mm-hmm.
styling your shelving.
Yep.
And there's no, you know, like barriered rules. It's just, you can get playful with it. Use things that are uh, artifacts, that are items that are in our everyday life. An old spoon, perhaps, or
Mm-hmm.
recently, I've really been doing a lot of gallery walls for
Mm.
clients,
Okay.
and often I'll say to them, "What do you have that's a family heirloom?" That's small enough that we could use in your gallery.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
some of them look at me, I've got five heads. What, we're going to put a spoon on the wall? But or I'll give you two examples of ones that
Mm-hmm.
recently I've done. So I did a lady's office. She had some old family paintbrushes,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and we had done a gallery wall, all black and whites, not photos. They were art pieces that were had a in comparison with art. And some
Mm-hmm.
of these pieces were from the exhibition, the art exhibition. So I said to her, and she goes, "Well, I have these." And I'm like, "Those are perfect." So we mounted them on the wall with in between the pieces, and like it was just perfect because it added in some historical element that was important to her because it belonged to somebody in her family. um, it was in relation to what the art was about, and it brought interest and texture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So don't be afraid to play with pieces that you already have. A bowl, an old bowl, or a bowl that has a unique color or yeah, unique shape.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I can think of recently was I was working on a rec room for a family that the gentleman was a pilot, and so
Mm-hmm.
we had created a gallery wall. And I asked him, I said, "What do you have?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Do you have any wings? Like pilot wings,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
said, yes. And he came out and he showed me them, and we put them into the gallery, because one of the other pieces of art that he had in the space was a big airplane. So again, it related to what we were doing, and
Yes.
it just brought interest and character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think really taking account of what you have in your own home that you can repurpose and give a new life to. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that idea. I would feel probably slightly intimidated. It goes back to my sometimes I need to see something to go, oh, I get it, you know. So if
Well,
I
we're
saw
lucky.
how it was done,
Sure, we're lucky now that we have great, websites like Pinterest and all of those,
yes, yes,
houzz.com. That's a great tool for us now, to use to even collect ideas. Often I'll ask clients, before a consultation, to go to House or go to Pinterest and create an ideas book
I
and
like
share it
that.
with me, because sometimes what I consider to be modern may not be what that person considers in their mind to be modern. So it's always good to get a feel for what they really, are interested in, and where their eye takes them and what they're
Mm-hmm.
attracted to. Uh, because getting back to what we had mentioned around style, it's very important to me to make sure that the client is going to have an outcome that is theirs, that feels like their space, and they've not walked into a foreign land
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they don't feel comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
So, my job then is to take what their outcome, what their desired outcome is, and to apply all the right tools and all the right science to get it to be the best it can be
Yes,
for
yes,
their style.
yeah.
So I appreciate you, mentioning in your own mind that you have an appreciation for all different styles.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that comes a lot from my art background.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I've always been interested in art. I loved, art in high school. I went on in college to take some art courses. And I think because art is so diverse and it's so historical, and there's so many, ways you can, see art and feel it, and you know there's decades and decades, hundreds and hundreds of years of people doing art. So it goes back forever, to the early cave days when we did,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hieroglyphics on the wall. I think my background in that has allowed me an appreciation for to really fall in love with all different kinds of styles. And I think as a designer or decorator or an architect, it's very important to embrace that and to reflect
Definitely.
that in what you do, because it's not about me living or working in that space. It's about the
Mm-hmm.
people that are using the space.
Yeah.
So listening to what it is that they really want and how they
Mm-hmm.
really want this to feel in the end is
Mm-hmm.
is priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you get these on any of your social media feeds, but I'll get sometimes, probably primarily on Instagram, like a carousel post where they'll say, which one would you choose? And they're very different. Like it'll be a living room or it'll be whatever, a
Yes,
kitchen.
I've
And they'll
recently seen
show,
some of
and sometimes I'm like, I like that one. And I like that one. And I like that. Like there will
that.
be multiple and they're
Sure.
very different.
Yes.
But I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even know how I would choose because
Yeah.
when they're done well, I'm like, I can't say that I have a favorite. I would probably need, that's where talking it through with someone like you to have me think about being in the
Yeah.
space and living in it, which one might fit
Yeah.
more the
Yeah.
moods I'm going for.
You're
Cause I
right.
just
When
look
they've
and go, they're
when they're done
beautiful.
well, you're like, I could have all of these. Yeah.
Pick one. I
Yeah.
can't.
And
Yeah.
it's sometimes nice, if you do a trip somewhere, or you do, an Airbnb or something like that. It's nice sometimes to have, the opportunity to be in a different environment that's
Oh
done well,
yeah.
you know,
Yes.
and you can appreciate that. And I think that's the key. If when you're looking at those, for the most part, they are laid out well, and the
Mm-hmm.
function is what builds
Mm-hmm.
it, and that's the first thing that needs to
Mm-hmm.
work is the
Yes.
functionality.
Yeah.
So you start with that. So whenever I'm building my concept plans, I start with a footprint, the floor plan, from a bird's eye view perspective, and lay out everything to scale, move walls, make sure I've got enough pathway, enough footprint to navigate through the space, before I even make any suggestion about adding a wall or taking a wall away. So developing the ergonomic function of the space,
Mm-hmm.
that's priority, because it doesn't matter how it looks if you can't walk through a door. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, that
like
answered one of my questions, because I was thinking you do always need to balance like the practicality of the space with
yes,
the aesthetic,
yes,
and which kind of takes priority.
yeah. Well,
Um,
that's
it has to
priority.
it has to
It
work.
has to be. It has
Yeah.
to be. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to navigate the space
Mm-hmm.
comfortably,
Yeah.
and allow for things like door swings,
Mm.
drawers being
Mm-hmm.
pulled out, um, so many, two people working within a kitchen area, all especially in
Mm-hmm.
those more functional spaces that you need
Yeah.
uh, exact science. There is kitchen, bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
mudroom, spaces where people are going to gather.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that goes into the
There,
building
it
of,
really is. Yeah.
when we get to the point where we're presenting, there has
Mm-hmm.
been layers and layers and layers
Mm-hmm.
of work and steps that have taken us through to get to that final
Mm-hmm.
result.
Mm-hmm.
I once worked on an addition in a farm out in Chatham. The couple were putting on an addition to their existing farmhouse, and the farmhouse was quite old. I think it was maybe late 1800s, something like that. It was over 100 years old at the time, and they were putting on a new addition that had a vaulted ceiling, very open concept, very unlike the farmhouse. That was
Mm-hmm.
very nooky with lower
Yeah.
ceilings, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but it had to work together. It had
Mm-hmm.
to make it look intended. That there,
Yeah.
when they were pushing through this back door, that breezeway that we created needed to look like it was part of the whole plan. So it
Mm-hmm.
was very strategic with us to pick elements that were already evident in the farmhouse and kind
Mm-hmm.
of bring them through to tie in this new open concept space.
Do you like
Um,
that kind of a challenge?
oh, it's one of the best things you can do
Uh-huh.
as a
Yeah.
designer or decorator.
That's right.
Um, it takes you yourself out of your
Yeah.
zone and makes
Yeah.
you
It's
have
like,
to go, okay, here's
how
where
am
we're
I
going
going
to
to
go.
make this work
Yes,
and flow? And
it's
yeah.
great. It's
Mm-hmm.
perfect. The clients were worked with vegetables and seeds. That was their job. That was what the
Mm-hmm.
farm did. And so I remember the lady calling initially to get us on board to do this project. And we were really overwhelmed with projects at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it had been a referral from actually one of her daughter, one of their daughters that we'd worked with here in Waterloo. And we really didn't, we really, timeline wise, it was like putting us in a zone. We were like, are we going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say no to her, but I needed to convince her that the timeline that we were given was not going to give her the best result. We needed a little bit more time to get her
Mm-hmm.
where she needed to go with this.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time that that's what they did for a living. And I equated our process to an onion.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to
Mm-hmm.
her, when you cut the onion and you see all the
Yes.
layers and how that onion developed.
Yes.
And I said, that's what it's like. The onion at the end is beautiful. It's going to do such good things for you, you know? Um, but it's going to take all those layers for us to get you that. And I didn't know, as I'd mentioned, that this is what they did. And you know what she said to me? She said, "You had me at onion."
That's perfect.
And
Yeah.
I was like, it was so funny,
You
actually.
spoke her language.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't know. And I said, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
okay." And she said, "I get it. You don't have to say anymore. I
Okay.
understand. We'll wait for you." And that was like,
Wonderful.
that's a great client, first of all, that,
Yeah.
if you can get someone to understand, um, you know, Earth wasn't built in a day,
Right.
and
Right.
so, and
Yeah.
neither is good design. It takes
Yeah.
time. It
Mm.
takes, in our heads, we might have a eureka right away. This is what we're going to do. But in
Mm-hmm.
order to be able to present that,
Mm-hmm.
the steps
Yeah.
involved. So I think educating our clients is really important, especially if they've never worked with, someone like us before. Um, and the good ones, the ones that you really want are, projects that the client understands the complexity of getting, to the end result that they are looking for,
Mm-hmm.
um, and understand that, taking them through the process of that,
Yeah.
so that they're aware of what, I mean, because people just don't know. It's not because they're
Right.
being,
Right.
unreasonable, or they
Yeah.
just don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and also, then, if you can also compare it to maybe the work that they do as well, like,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps they're a dentist, or perhaps they're, a lawyer, or what have you. um their work doesn't happen overnight either, and neither does ours, not if it's being done well.
Sure.
So, and then I guess, the next step in that is, when we do our presentations, we also create the presentation in multi-learning ways.
That's
So, which is
important.
really
Yeah.
important, because
Mm-hmm.
not everybody can, a visual might not even get them there. They might have to understand the mechanic of something, or the science of it. So there's talk about that. And we also present in, on screen. So it's a technical technology
Mm-hmm.
presentation, much like this. We also do a tangible vignette that has all of the samples, all of the
Yeah. So you could
materials.
see
So,
texture.
yes, so if we're
Mm-hmm.
showing something on the
Yeah.
screen that's a layout, for an option for their plan, it shows, yes, the layout, but, colors are different on a screen.
Yes,
The
they really
materials that
are.
we're
Mm-hmm.
proposing might be the actual materials, but it doesn't look the exact same as what it would if you're seeing it
Yeah.
right in person.
Yeah.
So we have the materials with us in alignment
Mm-hmm.
with what we're showing on screen. And we
Mm-hmm.
also create a document that will put all of the elements that are in the layout. So, the furnishings, and to
Mm-hmm.
scale, we actually encompass all of those as well, so that you can see where your choices are, that are real examples of what can go into that room, rather than willy-nilly,
Yeah.
okay, now you go look for those. We actually include that.
Yeah.
So it's a really great learning tool, and a really great way to present, because there's so many different ways that people can understand where their design is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's taken, I mean, it's not all, we've evolved that. It's been, with the availability of technology, and 3D programming, and
Yeah.
it's amazing what we can do now.
Yes. Yeah.
We offer the video of the space as well. So you
Well,
can
that's
walk through your
fantastic.
space,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like what you would see on TV, where they have those
Yep.
shows where they take walls down as you're walking through it,
Love them. Yep.
or
Mm-hmm.
putting walls up, in my case.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, but it's really cool, what's available to us, to be able to understand and really show our client what their outcome can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The design world, like I had mentioned before, is evolving right now. Like,
Sure.
in the minute,
Yep.
it's evolving,
Yep.
because it's a land of creativity. And when you have
Yep.
creativity, you have change in the moment,
Yes.
you know? So
Yep. I'm hearing some overlap in a strange way with my dealings with my clients, as a realtor. One, the managing expectations. So, right out of the gate, because if people don't understand what's involved, they have an idea, and it's very important to kind of manage those expectations.
100%.
And in a different way, but also the changing landscape. When I value a property for a client and then I say, that's as of like today, it's a snapshot because it's just constantly, changing and shifting. So
100%.
a month from now, it could be different. So,
Yeah.
I'm hearing some overlap there.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, I want to kind of circle back to even your name. I want to talk a little bit about the frugal part, where that came into your name, but I want to ask too about the size of projects you will take on. Like, what's the smallest project that you'll take on, all the way to like the biggest project that you will take on with clients?
Yeah. So I would say in the last 5 years or so, we've been presented with larger scale projects, and a lot of that is from referral.
Mm.
Most of our work now is referral based, probably a lot like yours.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and often it's people that have a project that is large scale, that really requires a lot of detail and a
Okay.
lot of decision making
Mm.
within
Hmm.
that. So you can imagine if you're
Hmm.
doing a decorative one room, you know, it's a lot smaller. There's a lot smaller portion of elements that go into it. There's a lot less time invested, because it's just the scale of it. It just doesn't need as much as what we would need to put
Yeah.
into building a home with someone,
Yes. Yeah.
and where you may have like 3, 4 bathrooms in there. So all of those need to be evolved with materials, and all those materials
Hmm.
have to work together. And so often these days it's large scale projects. And because I'm involved in those, there's limited scope of
Hmm.
time for me to do
Okay.
smaller
Hmm.
projects, which I don't right out refuse to do,
Hmm.
because sometimes within a project there might be a little bit of lax time, where there's something happening within the build that I'm really not needed at that moment.
Yeah.
So it depends really on what it is that's being asked of us. Um, so I'm open to any and all.
Hmm.
But I will be honest from the get go with a request that this is my timeline.
Uh-huh.
If you really want us to be involved in this, you may have to wait some time. Like right now, we're booking about 8 weeks
Okay.
for any consultations.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
so there is an option to get us in it's kind of an emergency consultation, I would guess, more of an
Hmm.
urgent situation,
Hmm.
where, recently we had one where there was something that happened within the flooring for a client. They
Hmm.
weren't our client initially. They'd chosen some things, and it was going to actually put their project really out of scope with being able to get it finished. And we helped them. We did an emergency urgent consultation to be able to get them to the next step. So there are anomalies to allowing our schedule to change, but for the most part, because it's so regimented with being able to allow for all these layers,
Yes.
I need to kind of stay on track with
Yeah.
being able to maintain our schedule.
Yeah. Being in the onion business, after all.
The onion business, yeah.
That's how you should introduce yourself. I'm in the
Yeah,
onion
I'm the
business,
onion
and they
business.
don't
Or
understand.
the tree cut business, when you see all the layers of how a tree,
Yes. All the
similar.
rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like anything
Absolutely.
that is worth doing. It takes time. Preparing a good meal takes time. Preparing,
Yeah.
making a baby. I always think about
Hmm.
that too. Your baby, not making the baby, well,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
actually
Growing it.
growing
Yeah.
the baby. Well, that
Growing the
could take
baby.
time too, I guess.
It does.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like, the outcome. it takes time to get it to the result that you need it at.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, if you educate your client and if you are reasonable with them, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to help, we do want to help. We
Mm-hmm.
just need to make sure that our timelines align with, with what their expectations are and also what their contractors' expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Lots of
so
moving pieces.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess just out of that, I would encourage anyone that's listening or that's considering doing any kind of renovation or larger scale project to
Mm-hmm.
really understand that if you're going to do it right and you want it to have the best outcomes and you want it to last for years on
Mm-hmm.
and for generations, um, you need to understand that it's going to take time and that uh, you have to consider all of the people involved as well, because sometimes they contractors may not even be available for
Mm.
6 months out.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
understanding all of the players and where their
Mm-hmm.
timelines
Mm-hmm.
exist. Also, if you are coming in with a contractor already, because we have contractors that we work with that we
Okay.
bring to the table for
Mm.
clients. So if they
Okay.
don't have a contract, we're like, okay, we have a contractor, we'll get
Yeah.
them involved with you. But sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes I'm getting a call from a client that already is engaged with a contractor, and
Mm-hmm.
that's fine too, as long as we all understand what our role is and
Mm-hmm.
that I can sit with them
Mm-hmm.
and show them where we're going with the design,
Yeah.
so that they understand what it's going to look like in the end, which is a
Yeah.
really great tool for the contractor as well, because they get to see it completed and they understand that
Yeah.
that wall is going to be cut back 24 inches, and they understand it in advance, so there's no questions for the client as well, that they don't have to be inundated with all of these questions from a contractor. So working with someone like us ahead of time to get a plan that will
Mm-hmm.
allow for you to move forward and allow for you to stay within budget,
Mm-hmm.
that is key to doing
Yeah.
anything that is a larger scale renovation.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and being aware of actual pricing is really important. I think sometimes people underestimate what things are going to cost, um, and and being realistic about that and what they're
Mm-hmm.
going to get for what their budget
Mm-hmm.
is targeted for. And sometimes it's doing it in phases. But if you have the plan, you can do it in phases because you
Gotcha.
know where you're going with it down the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why we do it the way we do, because the plan allows you to forecast it next
Mm-hmm.
week or a year from now. And even if there's things that have been discontinued or back ordered, what we'll do then, if you're going to, start the plan a year from now, and say your floor that we've presented to you is now discontinued or back ordered, we'll just plug in the one that is the most uh, uh, uniform, or that is the easiest to put back in as the material that's going to
Mm-hmm.
work with with all the others that have been selected. So the
Yeah.
substitution is not having to change dramatically. It will
Mm-hmm.
just get plugged into the available option now, and
Mm-hmm.
away you go with the rest of
Yeah.
it.
Which
So
on its own is an awesome service to provide, because sometimes, just as a consumer, you wouldn't know how to easily make a substitution like
yeah,
that.
and where do
Mhm.
you start? And
Yeah.
and you spoke a little bit about inspiration earlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Inspiration can come from anywhere, but often uh, uh, the clients will say, "Okay, well, what do we start choosing? What, like, because if they've got say three material selections, three groupings of material selection,
Yeah.
sometimes you can cross them over as well. So you might end up with a fourth or a fifth." Um, I always say to them, fall in love with one thing,
Mm.
fall in love with something, and then there'll be a ripple effect.
Great. That's
So
great
if it's
advice.
yeah, so if it's your countertop, so some fall in love with something that's going to have some power in the room,
Mm.
that's going to say something that you want it
Mm-hmm.
to say, and it's going to start, say, the motion for the style that you're trying to develop. Sometimes it's great wood floors with wide planks that's definitely what they want. That's
Yeah.
the piece. And then the undertones of those floors will be the jump off spot for, say, the wall color
Mm-hmm.
or the,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, what have you, the next thing.
Yeah. They don't
Um,
have to have it all figured out. You
you
can
don't.
go from, yeah,
Yes. Could be a
the thing.
fabric. It could be something
Yeah.
you already have. Could be the
Yeah.
piece of art behind
Mm-hmm.
your workstation there that
Yeah.
that is a piece that you've had in your family for generations, and you're like, that has to stay, and I want to build the room off of this. So, and I won't tell you what that is. It's so subjective what you fall in love with.
Right. Yeah.
So
Oh, I love
it's
that.
about, yeah, it's
Yeah.
about what is it that you're attracted to? What is it that excites you and that ignites you to make this outcome be the, like, what you love?
Hmm.
So yeah.
Thinking about and envisioning beautiful spaces and beautiful things is just putting me in such this. I don't know if you've
I
watched my mood shift just because I'm just visualizing
can
as
see
you're
you
talking.
getting
I'm like,
dreamy,
I
like.
know I am. I'm like, I'm not even in it. And I'm like, oh, this sounds like, oh, delicious work. It really does. And I think there is something that we appreciate about sensory things. The same reason I love watching cooking shows, right? When you just watch them prepare and there's something about it. Oh, so anyway,
Yes,
I'm in that headspace,
yes.
but I recognize the time has insanely flown.
My goodness, it's
Do
been an
you have
hour.
time? It's been an hour. I don't know how. Do you have time for a few rapid fire questions before I let
Sure,
you go?
let's do it.
Okay. If you weren't in your current career, what's a different path you'd love to try?
I always said I'd have loved to have been a pilot,
Oh, okay.
and I probably could still learn that,
Oh, of course.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and or a race car driver.
Interesting.
Driving. I
Wow.
love driving.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, there's always three things. I say the pilot, race car
Hmm.
driver,
Hmm.
or like owning like a really cozy nookie cafe.
Mm, that's on my list
Yeah.
too. Mm,
Maybe we can
yeah.
do it
Yeah.
together.
Okay. Oh, yes. And make it beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. What's the best compliment a client or employee has ever given you?
For a client, it's been, you've changed our family life.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, having places to put things, having a place to gather, having serenity in their space. I often hear that, actually, that this has changed our life, um, for all the reasons that we've already
Oh,
discussed.
gosh. Yeah. What a beautiful
Yeah.
compliment. All right. What's your guilty pleasure when you need a break from work?
Uh, I love going in the woods, camping.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
I I really like nature. So yeah, whenever I have any kind of free time, you can probably find me walking in the woods somewhere.
Forest bathing, so to speak.
Yes,
I
that's
love
the
that
thing.
term. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the beach. The beach is my thing. Like
Mm,
anything outdoors is.
me
I'm
too.
actually signed up to go foraging.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. So I haven't picked the exact date yet, but it'll be sometime in May. Um, and yeah, so it's learning to identify edibles
Yeah.
in the woods. So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah,
You
it'll
never
be
know when
fun.
you might need that skill.
You
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah. Now I know who to find if
Yeah.
things get rough out there.
Oh, and we're starting a garden at our house this year.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
right?
So we had to
Yeah.
take part of our deck down. It
Mm-hmm.
had gotten rotten. We
Yes.
were going to start replacing it with a new one this year. So we have kind of a decent sized backyard, and it's got like three tiers on the deck. It's only a step up each time. But the
Mm-hmm.
first step is the oldest part of the deck, and it had started to rot. And so
Okay.
my husband pulled it all up, and we were going to have someone put a new one in this. But my daughter is staying with us right now. She's back at school, and
Mm-hmm.
we're really like loving the idea of doing container gardening. So we're not going to put the deck on. We're going to actually uh, put container garden planters in there, the big galvanized ones, and then just do like a pathway through the
That
area
sounds like
that's
a
already it's already
fun project.
yes, it's already
Yeah.
all soil. So I'm like, let's not do the deck. Let's do this. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Something to look forward to. Okay. And last question. This one's might be a little bit challenging, but we'll see what you can come up with. If your business had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh, that's hard. But the first thing that came to my mind was
Uh-huh.
Walking on Sunshine.
Oh, well, I
It
mean, it could
literally,
work.
that
Uh-huh.
it's an older. I
Yes.
think it's Katrina and the Waves that used to sing it.
Uh-huh. It's a great one.
It's not even a song that I particularly I like alternative music,
Yeah.
but yeah, that hit me, Walking on
Yeah.
Sunshine.
It's
And
great.
because of the day today, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking
Yes.
forward to um the nicer weather. I mean,
Oh, me too. Me
I
too.
do
Mm-hmm.
love winter. I think winter is beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had a long cold one.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think people are just ready to get outside
I
and,
agree.
eat
Yeah.
outside and be on a patio
Yes.
and
Yes.
all the
Patios
things.
and decks and
Yes,
yeah. Yeah,
But if we
absolutely.
had that all the time, we wouldn't appreciate it.
I agree. Yeah.
So I think the four seasons are really important, and I'm glad I live in them and this
Yes.
environment in Canada. Yay,
Yes.
Canada!
Yes.
So yeah, but I think we're all ready for that.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, this has been delightful. I
Oh,
mean,
I loved it.
honestly, it would be easy to talk. I could see us easily talking for like 2 or 3 hours without,
It's
blinking.
true.
Honestly, I mean, I had more sort of questions about because I'm fascinated by. I'm attracted to beauty aesthetics,
Yes.
so I just find there's just so much I could talk about. But yeah, you did see me. I'd probably like doze off and nap because you made me so relaxed,
Well,
but
it's
so
been
great to
great.
meet.
I've really
Yeah,
enjoyed doing it, and
good.
I wish you all the best with this great
Thank
project that you're
you.
doing. And I'm going to continue listening and hearing some of your other professionals that you've had on.
Awesome. Yeah.
And yeah, and if we can ever, be of help and come on again and bring a new theme to the table,
Yes,
I'd
I
be
will keep
happy
that
to
in
do
mind
that.
because I'm going to do some sort of a different lane of just bringing experts in specifically to sort of give more like practical
Yeah,
advice, that
the
sort of
nitty
thing. So,
gritty stuff. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well,
All right. Well, I'm going to
have a
let you
great
go.
week.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you
Thanks
so
again.
much. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.